What happens when a clever but mischievous inner city child just outside of Liverpool drives her dad's car illegally at such a young age, but became a multi-award-winning entrepreneur, changing lives across the globe? Well, welcome back to Leading Our Own Way. I'm Andrew White and I'm the host, and today we're diving into the extraordinary world of Gillian Ashcroft, founder and CEO of Exceptional Care, Think Tank Academy, and the groundbreaking Succeed app. Now, it's a very unusual setup. Last week was here with Gillian for part 1 and 2. We're up to part 3, week 2. It's full on. It's absolutely crazy. I love it. And Gillian is amazing. Because Gillian isn't your average entrepreneur. She's a force of nature, a visionary leader, and a trailblazer in children's residential care and social care training. From her wild childhood in the inner city to building businesses that empower thousands of young people, Gillian's story is one of resilience, creativity, and an unwavering commitment to making a positive impact. In this part 3 here on today on Monday. If you did miss part 1 and 2 last week, please go back. It's definitely something not to miss. It makes sense if you go and listen to that first. But today in part 3, we're going to explore how Gillian leads her own way, once again navigating the challenges of entrepreneurship, parenting in a digital world, and creating innovative solutions that remove barriers from the next generation. Her journey proves that sometimes the most mischievous kids grow up to become the most inspiring change makers. So buckle up, because Gillian's story is raw, it's real, and it's absolutely unforgettable. But last week, like I mentioned, really focused on how she leads her own way. Today we're going to get a little bit more deeper into where it began for her. Incredible. Anyway, here's Gillian myself for part 3. Welcome to Leading Our Own Way. I'm your host, Andrew White, and this is the podcast that unveils captivating narratives of resilience and personal triumph. This podcast is for anyone seeking inspiration and insights on overcoming life's challenges. Follow and subscribe, and then we can lead together forever. Hello everybody, welcome back to Leading Our Own Way. Guess who's back for a second week? Gillian Ashcroft, everyone.
Hello everyone, nice to see you all again.
Well, if everyone's watching on YouTube and Spotify, they'll see things have dramatically... Gillian looks massively different. I've probably got longer hair and more grey. We filmed this part 3, let's call it, it's the 23rd of October today, isn't it? But we last filmed last week's episode on the 11th of June.
Time flies, and it's just so busy. Like, there's so much going on. So yeah, but we're together now, so that's all that matters. And we've got
absolutely. I couldn't agree. But yeah. Gillian, it ties in perfectly with everything that you explained in part 1 and 2 and all these wonderful things of how you're leading our own way. And that's pretty much what we covered for 75 minutes last week. And it was beautiful. And I think it's really important that we see how you got there now. You know what I mean? You've been obviously on a journey and where you grew up. It'd be fascinating to learn a little bit more about the Jill that she was when she was younger. You know, if I was a fly on the wall in your house and where you grew up, what would I have seen?
Do you know what? I was always very clever in school, but I was a little nightmare after 3 o'clock. I really was. So I always had. I'm actually just sat here with my PA, Kath, and I can hear her laughing. I'm still a nightmare now. But yeah, I grew up just in the inner city mostly. You know, I was born in the inner city, and I was very lucky that my mum moved us out, but all my family still remained in the inner city. So I was always, you know, still growing up there, and especially like in the flats close to the Liverpool city centre, and it was just wild, really. We just done what we wanted to do. I think back then, you know, my mum worked all the time and my dad worked, and they were doing 12-hour shifts in factories or in pubs, and my dad was a taxi driver, and you just got left with your family. So, and then there was that many kids in the family, we just got left to just run riot, really. Which is, I think we had the best times, but you don't get that now because kids are always just, they don't move. My kids don't leave the house, and when they do, they're back in like half an hour. They're like boomerangs because there's just all the devices, and we spoke about that earlier on. But we used to just play out from still, once the sun come up till the sun went down, and you'd hear me Auntie Mary shout across all the landings, because they were like a big old blocks of flats all over town, and she'd shout right across, and it'd be like, you know, that's when, you know, you used to be like, oh, it's time to get in, and we all used to run up, but we'd have fun, and there was no money, but we didn't need any. And like, you make fun out of, like, we had, I don't even know why this has just popped into my head, but you had like, in the room, we had like 2 single beds in my auntie's, and one of us would be like a crocodile in the middle on the floor, and you'd have to just jump over the beds to get away from the crocodile, and we played that for hours, you know. Or you had a ball, and you still had to play Kirby, where you threw it on you had to hit the curb.
Love Kirby.
Kirby, or like Space Raiders, where like you had to run across the ball and kick the ball, and if it hit someone, you were out. That was hours of fun. Like, now, what is it? Like, you spend a fortune going to cinema, bowling, the kids are like, do I really have to go? And you feel like just going, you know what? Like, we have fun. We have fun. And, yeah, but with school, I was always very clever. Well, I'll tell you the truth. I was way, I was way clever until the last year of juniors. And I remember this teacher, I come back from Benidorm with my mum, and it was own clothes day. And I had like a little skirt on and a little vest. And I was very much mature for my age in terms of how my brain works, because I know I was in the inner city. And I remember the teacher saying to me, oh, I wonder what you're going to look like on the corner when you're older. So what's that implying? So I told someone in the class that he called me being a prostitute. And this, because he did, really. Like, that's what he was implying. And she told the teacher, and I got like, right across the playground was like, Gillian, Roach, because it was Roach back then. My mum got called up to school, and I got grounded, and I had to write out the dictionary from A to Z. Like, that was my punishment. My mum was really, really, she was a batlax. And I got to Z, and I was like, but this is a big dictionary with all the meanings in, and I was like, yes. And she went, no, you're going from Z to A, back. And from that day, I was clever as anything, and I was academic. I weren't until that point. So I think that was the turning point for me. And then, yeah, I was so good. I was in all top sets, extension sets. But then I got to half 3. And I think it's that entrepreneur inside you. You're always a bit naughty. So I used to just, honestly, I never got, well, yeah, I think I did get caught a few times. But anything that was naughty, signed me up. And I was just a little menace, really. But it just needed to be channeled in the right way. And I think I got to about the age of 17. Like, I took my dad's car out without a driving licence. I used to drive that round. No, I was naughty. But I started realising consequence. And I think at that point I was like, look, I need to channel this in a different way. And, you know, I was just, anything I could, if someone said you're not allowed to do it, or no one's got away with this before, it was like game on. It was not the fact that I wanted to do something naughty, it was the fact that it was a challenge. So it was a challenge with me. And I thought, like, I got to 17 and I was just, I need to channel this in the right way. And that's what I did. So
what sort of things needed challenging before you approached 17 then?
The naughty stuff. Do you know?
Yeah.
Just like when, so I worked at McDonald's, and they were like, God, I used to they were like, no one could get away with giving free food away and doing this. And I was like, because it weren't just like one person, it was, I just seen it as a big like franchise. And I was like, oh, well, I can. So I was like, I was just running circles around anything I did. But it's not me, you know what I mean? It was like, I worked in DFS, and I used to go in, clock in, and, you know, come back after my shift and clock my house. It didn't work. And I got away with it for ages, and I was like, it was just little things that were stupid.
Yeah.
Not hating anyone individually.
Of course.
But it was like, I'd done the same in a jeweller's as well. You know, I worked in jewellers at Christmas, and they were like, oh, no one has ever been able to take from the jewellers. And I worked out if we use the SKU cards and put it onto a different, like, so if something was cheaper and something was more expensive, I'd swap them over, and someone would come in, and they were, everyone was like great at Christmas. They had the best presents. It was not right, but I was 16, do you know what I mean? For me, it was like more of the rush, the buzz, and like, I can do it because no one else can. And I think my whole life, and I just thought, well, that's not really a nice person, and, you know, there's a lot more to me than just scamming. And I used that in a good way, but I learned how not for people to do that to me. So I used it as a safeguard, because I grew up in the inner city. You know, we're not soft. I've got so much streetwise common sense. You know, I could run circles around anyone in the corporate world, because I've lived real life experience, and I just thought I'm going to use all that experience and them life skills to safeguard myself. And that's what I did. You know, I was on the ball. You know, because I had businesses from the age of 17 was my first businesses, and I used it. No one could pull the wool over my eyes, because I could been there and done it. And then it become like a real asset to where I grew and could look after myself and be a nice person, but use that to protect myself and everything that my organisation that I was building. So it's just life, isn't it? It really is. But yeah, I drove my car. I used to drive my dad's car around overnight when I was on licence, which was really bad. And I got pulled over one day by the police, and that's when like it really hit me. Like, what are you doing? Like, this is wrong, you know. No, you just don't think when you're a kid. You don't think. And I'd never do that, and I never do that now. And it's just, you know, it's just all about learning journey. But when you know that it's wrong, then you know that you're a good person. Because it's not like you didn't carry on like that. You got to a certain point and you knew something inside weren't right, you know. And that just shows your inner person and your inner values and your inner morals. And you've got a good heart, because you know that this is wrong. So I knew right from wrong, but it just needed to channel that then, and I channeled it in an entrepreneurial way. So yeah, I was naughty basically.
And that you
I got
did.
a scholarship for private school.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I got a scholarship for private school, but back then the training, show me age now, the trainings weren't, the networks just weren't as developed as they was now, and my mum was busy working all the time, so I couldn't get there every morning, so that's a shame, but it didn't do me any harm. So I never went, so I missed the scholarship.
Oh, you didn't go?
No.
Because of the transportation.
Couldn't get there. It weren't like our kids now, you know, they get picked up and get dropped off, and everyone's like, it's just, you know, when you're younger, you just got a little slap, didn't you? And it was like, I was going to crack on. It was like, you know, right now, like I've never touched. If I told that to my kids, they'd bring social services.
I know,
you know,
right?
Kids
Yeah, I know.
I wouldn't do that anyway. But you know, it didn't do us. I think growing up, it was just we lived in like the old ways. The old ways. It was like, get on with it. You're sick. Get to school.
Far off. You're pretty much the same age as me, I think, Jill, aren't you?
I'm 40.
Oh yeah, well, God, you're younger than me then. Jesus.
Yeah, but it's not the same world now, is it?
Yeah.
You know, I just got to slap the back of the head and say, crack on. You know, what are you mooning at? Stop being weak. You know, stop giving sort it out yourself.
But your children, I mean, I've met one of them online, and they're pretty resilient kids that I see online. They're with you. They're involved in your life.
They're in a box. They're in a bubble. Like they, you know, they bring me up at 3:30 from school, and it's like, where are you? Just walk. Do you live 10 minutes down the road? Just walk. I'm in a meeting. Oh, do we have to? So it's like, just like whether it was hailing, thunder or lightning, I was on that train and I was walking home, or I was, you know, there was no one coming to pick me up. And I'm not saying that in a violin, but it does bring more resilience. And do you know what we always had there? We always had love. So it doesn't matter. And I think right now you can give your kids everything, but I think we were happier than the kids these days, because we just have fun. We have fun.
You talk. I mean, I talk to a lot of guests about this, and on a daily basis, I talk about this in regards to children's minds and brains. Hence, why you can see all these books around me, because I'm fascinated with the brain and human physiology. And you're right. I think we're in a huge problem. I'm experiencing that as a parent myself. I have a 9 and a 4-year-old, and they don't want to go outside. I built a little basketball court in the back garden. It cost me a fortune. It never bloody shoots. It kills me. I'm like, well, I'll dig it up and do a nice garden there for her. Instead, I can go and sit out in the, you know what I mean? Like, it kills me. Get outside. And we've banned. It's funny this top subject's come up, because at this point in time, I've taken all the TV wires out of the back of the TV. I've got 2 lounge rooms, so there's 2 TVs. The wires have gone. The iPad is banned. Then he got obsessed with listening to a podcast from the iPad. I'm like, that's gone, because it seems to be like technology based that they're attracted to. Even though he's not watching anything on the iPad, he's listening to a podcast. And I love podcasts, obviously, why we're doing what we do. But
I'm sure he takes after you. You know, I think you've installed that in him.
no, we've you know, he goes to school and everyone else is talking about, you know, computer games or certain things. He doesn't get to be a part of that conversation. That's his trauma. Like, I know that's his issue. that is not a part of it. But I'm like, well, that's the bit if that's your worst problem and that's me being a bad parent, then I'll take it. Because if I gave you the iPad and you're sucked on computer games or reels all night, every night, your brain will
I think
decline
it's a balance though,
massively.
I think like cutting it off altogether, this is their world now. And I feel like I'm doing all this now because I'm developing and launching a global app, and it's getting led by a panel of young people, so a panel of experts, young people experts, and it's all coming through. They're saying like we're not listened to. Like we're trying to make them live in our world. It's not. It's the next generation. It's their world, and we've got to have that balance because it's coming whether we like it or not. But it's balanced. Everything's balanced. So I think like cutting them off altogether. I think they might be like between 5 and 7, it's family time or something like that. And I think like, but they've got to still be in that like tech world and in that virtual world because it's coming, Andy.
It
It's all
is.
changing.
But children don't understand the detrimental effects on the brain and how it trains them. So what I mean by that is I didn't have an issue growing up watching TV. I played FIFA, I played Sonic, where you'd learn to die
So,
and build back
do you
up and
remember
get back on.
what was that cool? It was a Cool Runnings, the one with the car, the
Yeah,
red car,
yeah.
and the girl's blonde hair waved. Do you remember
But,
that? I used to
but
go straight. You didn't do nothing else but go straight.
that sounds
That was on
boring.
the yeah. The
But if you
Sega.
died in
It was on the
Sonic,
Sega Mega Drive.
that's right. Yeah. If you died, though, you would build up the skill to persistence and resilience to keep going and fight. And you frustrate and you die again and you get more frustrated. But there was a lot of learning in it. Now children are watching reels for 20 seconds, but for hours at a time. So they're actually training their brain to focus on something for 20 seconds. So you wonder why they
Yeah,
can't
I
focus
see
in the
that. I
classroom.
see the point. Yeah,
That's the
yeah.
problem. I don't have an issue with them watching TV, but again, balance and fair time. Now he's on a complete ban for a few weeks because of his behaviour. So I should rectify that. So when we bring it back, we're going to allow him to have TV in the evening where he watches something with us. We might allow him on a documentary and stuff like that. However, at the weekend, he can have a few hours playing on a game here and there to have, again, that balance.
Not bad. And he'll appreciate that then as well.
I agree. Yeah, absolutely, he will, and we'll buy him. We're not there yet because we said as soon as if and when you mature and how you respond to coming off technology, because coming off it is a huge emotional breakdown. It's a massive problem. Even if he's had it for for a bit.
Yourself when you leave your phone. I leave my phone in the house and say I drive to work. I'm fretting. I'm like, I've got to get this phone back. They done like a social experiment in America with a group of students. I think it was from Harvard or something like that, or UCL, and they took the phone off them for like a period, sort of like a week or like 2 weeks, and you see them having psychological breakdowns. But I do the same. Like I like my phone. Like even after 2 hours, after 5 minutes, I'm like. It's like anxiety, and I'm like, oh God, because I do work on my phone. Do you know what I
Of
mean?
course.
Not only that, I spend so much. I wake up in the morning at 5:30. I could go to the gym, which I haven't been going lately, but I don't just spend an hour on reels
Yeah,
or looking
no,
at myself.
well, dopamine. That dopamine receptor is going to die a lot sooner in children and young
Mm.
adults, and this is why Alzheimer's and Parkinson's and all of that's going to be diagnosed a lot sooner if
Mm.
we keep living on our phones, because it's basically neural pathway death, basically. And we've got to be careful. Again, I think the balance is the key word there. As long as we balance it and don't become it's part of our life, it's a huge, we'll be all right. But I'm very, very, very worried. I'm slightly worried. And I love my tech. I've got my tech on my hand. I've got all my lights programmed through Siri in my house. I love my tech. I'm aware of the detrimental effect. And these children, it's partly our fault because they see me on it too, right? So
Yeah.
that's a whole new episode, Jill, to be fair. We could spend
Yeah,
hours going on that one.
we'll come back to that.
Yeah. But your journey going into you're 17, you mentioned that you were 17 years old, and that's really when it started to change. You thought about the consequences of life and some of the actions that you were leading. Not that you were a bad kid, I know, but 17 was when you started businesses, and you did that. You've clearly done that quite young, and we know from part 1 and 2 how far you've really taken that. But at 17, what did your businesses look like?
Well, to be honest, it started. So I did law. So I mentioned this before. I did law at university. Again, I actually got asked to leave. So because I was naughty. And what it was is it didn't conform. So there was, I think I spoke about it, there was a woman, so for people who didn't hear it the first time, there was a lady, a professor, a lecturer, and she was very influential in the law in the law world in Liverpool, and she was just talking loads of rubbish about people from the inner city, which is my, you know, it's my bread and butter. My world grew up in the inner city. It's where I started my businesses, which is my bread and butter. It's where I grew up. It's where my family live, and she was trying to really make out that everything that's moved out in terms of criminality into the suburbs as being because of people from the inner city doing well through like criminality, through drugs and like just illegal means, and then getting nicer houses in the, you know, the suburbs and bringing that criminality out. And I was like, I stood up and I was like, do you know what? And it was quite empowering for me because I was only 17, and to stand up in a lecture room, you know, I was showed I had balls basically, and I didn't realise I had them at that point. And right now they're huge. I've got a skateboard for my balls now. And I said to her, you know, when's the last time you got out of your fancy car and you actually went to the inner city, and, you know, you're talking, you're having an impression on like a full lecture room of these like premature minds that are going to go out then and then ripple that onto bigger society, of the vision that she was putting in their head, the perception she was putting in their head of people from the inner city being bad criminals and ruining everything for everybody else. And I said, so when's the last time you've been out, you know, actually met the people of the inner city? When have you even ever been to the inner city? You know, you're talking out a textbook, you're talking a load of bull basically. And that was it. My life was very much crap after that in uni. But I never went back, but I stayed in uni, but I never went. I just self-educated. So I done with the rest of year 2 and year 3, just because it comes through on PowerPoint anyway. You know, with the lecture, you get the slides anyway. So I just spent my whole rest of my degree doing that. I got pregnant as well with my first child. He's going to be 20 on his next birthday. He's like a big man. So I had the baby, and then I had another baby as well. But I still carried on doing my degree. I will tell you the funny story though, but at the same time, it was the property boom. So if you think about it, I was in uni, pregnant. Well, that was the first year was when I had all that with Shirley. I always remember the name. The last year was when I was pregnant. I was 20. I had a house. I'm still with my husband now. You know, I was been with my husband for 25 years.
Amazing. Going to interview him, by the way.
I went this uni floozy that got herself knocked up. So why someone ransom, it was my husband, you know what I mean? We had a house and we're in a different, he had businesses, but it was the property boom. My mum gave me some money to purchase 2 homes, and I think I put like, it was minimal down, and it was, back then they were giving mortgages left, right and centre. They were off plan. Basically I earned 130,000 from 2 properties, and I was in America when the money come through. By this point I weren't pregnant, and this was before I got pregnant, we'll go back to that. And I was in Salt Lake City in Utah skiing. So I had a nice life back then anyway. My husband looked after me and stuff. And there was a plot of land in Utah, didn't even ask. And I ended up buying the land with the money with my husband. And we made like 500 grand off the land.
In Utah?
In Utah, yeah. We bought the mountains and Salt Lake. And then we had salons as well. He had his first salon, so we bought another salon, and then
what did he do?
Sorry?
What did he do to support you? Like, what was he doing at the time?
Property. He had sites all over the country, and then yeah, he come out the army. He was in the army in the Irish Guards. He was a sergeant, so he worked his way up. He was going to be in the SAS. He was training with the SAS, and yeah, and then he went AWOL. He was engaged to some woman, and she weren't as good as me. She was a crazy lady. And then he went AWOL and come out and met me that week. But so I was still in. So that all happened. So we were setting up all the businesses. We were starting to grow. I was still in uni, and then I got pregnant. We had our son. But I remember when I did law. Oh, this is so bad, but I'm going to tell you anyway.
I'm worried now.
Just this is the inner city. Like, you know, you've got to do what you've got to use, what tools you've got around you, and just get through it. But I revised for my finals, and there was 3 questions that I could come up on my paper. So that was this is to pass my whole law degree. I revised. They would say like, because I've done like 5 questions where I knew, because I've got like a photographic memory, like I can sit there, read it all, an hour later I won't remember nothing, right? But I can get through the exam. So I wrote out my 5 essays. I think there was a possibility of like, I think it was like 3 that needed to come up, basically not one of them come up that I learned. Not one. I must have been at the worst luck. I couldn't write a thing because I wrote out the essays and not one of them. I thought if 2 comes up, I'll smash it 75%. Just it's like, sorry, it's 2/3 of the exam. You know what I mean? I'll be fine. I'll get a 2-1. Nothing. But I was heavily pregnant, so you know what I did, don't you?
Well, there you go. There's the end of part 3 with Gillian and myself. As you can tell, Gillian isn't just building businesses. She's building hope, possibility, and pathways for the next generation. But here's the thing, we've only scratched the surface. Because next week we're going, sorry, not next week, in a few days for part 4, can't believe I'm saying that, part 4, we're going deeper. We're going to dive deep into Gillian's childhood, the experiences. I mean, we've touched on it already, but you know, those experiences that really shaped her and the pivotal moments that ignited this incredible fire within her. Where does this level of resilience come from? Do we have it? Do we really have it deep down anyway? What drives someone to dedicate their life to empowering others? You won't want to miss part 4. But before you go, if Gillian's story has resonated with you, once again, please do me a favor. Share this episode with someone who needs to hear it. Leave a review on Spotify and Apple, and let us know what hit home for you. Your support helps us reach more people who need these stories of resilience and transformation. And here's a question for you to sit with this week. What barriers are you ready to break down? Not just for yourself, but for others too. As you know, I'm Andrew White, and this is Leading Our Own Way. See you in a few days for part 4 with Gillian Ashcroft. Keep leading your own way. Join us tomorrow to hear more from today's incredible guests and learn valuable insights to help you lead your own way. Don't forget to subscribe. We'll see you then.